In the fast-paced world of online comedy, where millions scroll for laughter and escape, few creators manage to connect as deeply with audiences as Steve Bridges. Known for his sharp wit, relatable humor, and perfectly timed skits, Bridges wasn't just another TikTok comedian. He was a storyteller who turned the ordinary moments of family life into something extraordinary. His videos, often featuring exaggerated characters or lighthearted glimpses into everyday struggles, built him a loyal following of nearly 2 million fans. But behind the laughter, no one could have imagined that one of the internet's brightest comedic voices would be silenced so suddenly. On the morning of October 15, 2025, news broke that Steve Bridges had passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 41. The shock rippled across social media, where fans, friends, and fellow creators struggled to comprehend the loss. For a man who had dedicated his life to making others smile, the silence that followed was deafening. His wife, Chelsea Bridges, shared the heartbreaking news through a tearful video, describing Steve not as the animated performer millions knew, but as the loving husband and devoted father of 3 who made their home feel alive with laughter. As the story unfolded, fans learned more about the man behind the screen, his quiet generosity, his relentless creativity, and his private struggles. Despite growing fame, Steve remained grounded, balancing his digital career with his responsibilities as a husband and father. His sudden death, now classified as a natural one, left an empty space not only in his family's life, but also in the online community that had come to see him as a daily source of joy. The morning of October 15, 2025, began like any other for Steve Bridges' family. But by dawn, the laughter that had once filled their Illinois home was replaced with stillness. Steve had died peacefully in his sleep at just 41 years old. For a man so full of energy, humor, and warmth, the news felt unreal, almost impossible. Local authorities confirmed it was a natural death, with no signs of foul play, leaving family, friends, and fans stunned and searching for answers that never came. Chelsea Bridges, his wife of 16 years, would later share in a tearful video that there had been no warning signs, no illness, no distress. One night, he went to bed after editing one of his sketches, and by morning, he was gone. It was a moment that shattered the quiet routine of their lives, transforming their home from a space of laughter to one of disbelief. The police and coroner who arrived on the scene found no evidence of external causes, and the family has since chosen to focus on preserving his memory rather than speculating about his final hours. Those closest to Steve recalled that in the weeks before his death, he had seemed more reflective than usual, talking about slowing down, spending more time with his children, and focusing on his health. Yet nothing could have predicted the suddenness of his passing. What made it all the more haunting was his family's history. His grandmother, father, and grandfather had all died young, each under similar circumstances, all in their sleep. That legacy seemed to cast a quiet shadow over Steve's story, a reminder of how fragile life can be, even for those who bring joy to millions. As tributes poured in, fans replayed his videos not just for entertainment, but as pieces of a life that had burned brightly, if briefly. Behind the camera, Steve's story became a reflection on mortality in the digital age, a reminder that even the faces that make us laugh the hardest are living, breathing souls with moments of silence, vulnerability, and human fragility. Beyond the bright lights of the camera and the millions of followers who adored him, Steve Bridges was first and foremost a family man. At home, he wasn't the witty performer crafting punchlines. He was simply a husband, a father, and a best friend. Married to Chelsea for 16 years, their bond was one built on laughter, resilience, and faith. Together, they raised 3 children, a daughter and twin sons, each of whom inherited his sense of humor and zest for life. While his online sketches showed snippets of exaggerated family life, the truth was that Steve drew much of his inspiration from the quiet moments of fatherhood, bedtime stories, morning school runs, and those small exchanges that defined their home. Chelsea often described their life together as perfectly imperfect. The Bridges household was filled with chaos, laughter, and love, the kind that made even the hardest days feel light. Steve made it his mission to keep his family grounded, shielding them from the noise of online fame. He was the kind of father who would turn off his phone during dinner, the kind of husband who still left notes for his wife after all those years. Even as his following grew, his home remained his sanctuary, a space untouched by the pressures of digital success. His wife's tribute video, shared after his death, revealed a deeper portrait of the man behind the screen. She spoke of his kindness, his humility, and his ability to make people feel seen, even when the cameras weren't rolling. To Chelsea and their children, Steve wasn't a comedian or influencer. He was the heartbeat of their home, the one who could make them laugh through tears and remind them of what really mattered. In remembering Steve Bridges, those closest to him see not the viral star, but the man who lived for his family. His story is a quiet testament that true success isn't found in fame or followers. It's found in love, in laughter, and in the legacy we leave within the walls of our own homes. Steve Bridges' rise to fame was not the result of overnight virality. It was the product of years of creativity, consistency, and an unfiltered understanding of human connection. He entered the TikTok scene at a time when short-form comedy was booming, yet few creators managed to balance humor with heart the way he did. His sketches were simple, often shot at home with minimal props, but they carried a universal truth that made people laugh and think at the same time. From his hilarious takes on modern relationships to his deadpan portrayals of overconfident salesmen and clueless boyfriends, Steve's humor reflected the absurdities of everyday life. Each video felt familiar, as if viewers were watching a piece of themselves through his characters. Over time, Steve's comedic world expanded beyond TikTok. His unique storytelling style drew attention across Instagram and YouTube, where he quickly gained millions of loyal followers who tuned in not just for entertainment, but for the authenticity he radiated. What made Steve stand out wasn't just his jokes. It was his timing, his subtle facial expressions, and his ability to turn even the smallest interaction into a moment of genuine laughter. In 2025, his creativity took a new turn when he made his acting debut in the independent film Infernal, marking the beginning of what promised to be a promising career on screen. Though he had always considered himself just a guy who likes making people laugh, his influence in the digital entertainment space had already made him a recognizable face across platforms. Steve Bridges built more than a following. He built a community. His content gave people comfort in chaos, laughter in loneliness, and perspective in pain. Every post, every sketch, was a reminder that humor could heal and unite. In a digital world often clouded by negativity, Steve became a beacon of light, using laughter as his language to connect with millions around the world. Behind Steve Bridges' laughter and boundless energy was a quiet awareness of the fragility of life. Those close to him knew that health was something he took seriously, not out of vanity, but out of history. The Bridges family carried a haunting legacy, generations of men who died young, often in their sleep. His grandmother passed away at 52, his father and grandfather both in their 40s. It was a lineage that lingered in his mind, even as he tried to focus on the joy of the present. Friends recall that he would occasionally mention wanting to break the cycle, determined to live long enough to watch his children grow up. In the months leading to his death, Steve had become more health conscious than ever. He adjusted his diet, exercised regularly, and often spoke about how he wanted to stay strong, not just for himself, but for his family. His wife, Chelsea, described him as a man in good spirits and seemingly good health, showing no signs of fatigue or illness. That made his passing even more incomprehensible. The coroner's report would later describe it as a natural death, yet no specific medical cause was shared publicly. The absence of clear answers left his loved ones and fans with an unsettling sense of mystery. How could someone so full of life fade away so quietly? Some close to the family saw it as a tragic echo of his ancestry, a cruel pattern repeating itself. But for Chelsea and the children, Steve's story wasn't defined by genetics. It was defined by how he lived in defiance of them. Every laugh he shared, every video he made, was an act of hope, a testament that joy could outlast mortality. His life became a reminder that while we can't always control the length of our days, we can shape their meaning. When the news of Steve Bridges' death broke, the shock spread far beyond his hometown. Across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, timelines filled with disbelief, heartbreak, and heartfelt tributes. Fans replayed his sketches not just to laugh, but to feel close to the man whose humor had become a daily source of comfort. Fellow creators shared memories of working with him, recalling his humility, his generosity, and how he always made space for others to shine. It was as if the entire online community had lost a friend, not just a comedian. Within hours, hashtags like hashtag RIP Steve Bridges and hashtag Thank You Steve began trending, uniting millions in collective grief. His wife, Chelsea, was met with an outpouring of love and support from around the world. A GoFundMe campaign created by friends and fans to support his family quickly surpassed its goal, reflecting how deeply people had connected to his work and his story. For many, Steve's passing was a reminder that even in the age of social media, genuine kindness still left the strongest impact. Media outlets described him as one of TikTok's most authentic voices, a creator who turned humor into healing. His videos now live on as a kind of time capsule, capturing the warmth and sincerity that defined his presence. In death, Steve's influence only grew stronger. Educators, therapists, and fellow entertainers cited his content as a rare example of comedy that united people instead of dividing them. But perhaps his greatest legacy lives in the laughter he left behind, in the families who still quote his jokes, in the fans who rewatch his videos for comfort, and in the countless creators he inspired to bring more light to the world. Steve Bridges may be gone, but his voice, gentle, funny, and profoundly human, continues to echo across the screens of those who loved him. And that's the story of Steve Bridges, a man who reminded the world that laughter is more than entertainment. It's connection, it's healing, it's legacy. His journey from ordinary life to global recognition wasn't built on fame or fortune, but on authenticity. Steve used humor to bridge the gap between strangers, turning simple moments into shared emotion. Even in his absence, his voice still echoes through the countless videos, smiles, and memories he left behind. If this story moved you, take a moment to honor his memory, not by mourning, but by living as he did, with joy, love, and laughter. Because somewhere in the sound of every chuckle, every replayed clip, Steve's spirit lives on. Thank you for watching. If you found inspiration in this story, hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs a reminder to smile today, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that celebrate the lives that continue to shape our world.